While on the fire department, I was on probation for a year. It seemed like it was over. I had to go to Cocaine Anonymous. I eventually even lost my marriage. I realized I'm Kevin Matthews. Some say I went from Section 8 to head of state, from addiction to fire chief to state senator. And if I made it, so can you. I want to tell you a little bit about my story of having a great family and ruining it with drugs and alcohol, and actually having to go through divorce, humiliation. And while on the fire department, I was on probation for a year, had to go to Cocaine Anonymous, Alcoholic Anonymous, had to go to meetings. And again, I eventually even lost my marriage. It seemed like it was over, but that wasn't true. I realized that if it was to be, it was up to me. I was responsible for my mistakes, and I could be responsible for my success. And many of the guests that you will see on this show have done the very same thing. Sometimes you just have to get back up. You know, I'm a spiritual person. One of the songs I love is "We Fall Down, But We Get Up." A saint is just a sinner who fell down and got back up. We just lost one of our heroes that was an example of that. Mr. Keith Reed with Reed's Boxing here in Tulsa. He was a great man that was one of my mentors and mentors to many young people here. But we have other great people here in Tulsa that you'll get to meet. And so let's get right into it. What are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about the momentum of breakdown and breakthrough. Sometimes when we feel like things have broken down around us, we want to quit. We want to give up. I said I was a spiritual person. You may or may not be, but we have to have something or someone we believe in. And for me, I went to church. Some people go other places. I told you I went to meetings. I learned about the 12 steps, which is a spiritual program as well. But I'm just saying to you that if you've had a fall, you have a child or sibling or relative that's had a fall, don't give up on them. All we have to do is get back up, dust ourselves off, and continue. Who would have ever thought that I would be an elected official? As a matter of fact, my family was really, really trying to tell me, don't run for office, don't run for office. All the things that you've done is going to be embarrassing. But actually, I wear it as a badge of honor. The things that I've been through, they say that sometimes your test is your testimony. And I'm grateful that I got through that. I have 2 tremendous sons. I have 2 amazing grandchildren. And it's because I got up and I continue with what I did have. We all have gifts. And all we have to do, I believe, I said again, in having faith and then using your gifts to your advantage. While I was on probation at the fire department, I had to go to Cocaine Anonymous, Alcoholic Anonymous meetings 3 times a day for the first 6 months, 2 times a day for the next 6 months, then once a week. And then in between, I ended up having an opportunity to go to Toastmasters. I would go there at 5:30 in the morning before I went to work. And after a year, I became a certified Toastmaster. And while being on probation, that certification was sent to the fire department. And amazingly, after being on probation for a year and developing a relationship and talking to the fire chief about why Black firefighters didn't have more opportunities and why we didn't have but 2 Black fire chiefs in the history of the fire department. And they had 31 chiefs on the fire department. And all of that time, we had only had about 2 in that history. And why not? Why were Black people not moving up? Why were women and people of color not getting jobs on the fire department? They were sued and had a consent decree, a 50-50 consent decree where they had to hire 50-50 for 10 years. And right after that, they went to only hiring one black per year during the time that I was there. And the 5-year period that before this time, they'd only hired 5 black people, and they were hiring 20 and 30 at a time, 150, and only about 4 or 5. So I began to question the fire chief at that time, built a relationship while I was there, and then had the opportunity, after becoming a certified Toastmaster, to become the first black spokesperson for the Tulsa Fire Department. And that allowed me to move into the fire department administration. And then from there, worked with then Mayor Susan Savage, the first woman mayor of Tulsa. And she came to me. I was also the head of the Black Firefighters Organization. And firefighters are very involved in politics. They have a lot of time off. They're one of the most active groups politically. And so she came and asked for the support of the black firefighters, where I was the president. And I told her, we would help you, but if you win, if you will help me get black firefighters, then I know that you want women firefighters, and we can work together to do that. And the rest is history. Susan Savage became our first woman mayor. Don Ross, that was a state representative, wrote a letter to the fire chief and the mayor and asked why I was kind of doing some of this work with the Urban League and others, but did not have a position. And that position came about. I had the opportunity. I moved into the administration and became the first. I wrote and developed the process for the hiring process for the fire department and became the first equal employment opportunity recruitment officer for the Tulsa Fire Department. The first women chiefs on the fire department, I think we've had 2 or 3 now. The black chiefs, I hired all of them that became chiefs on the fire department, the women and people of color, created the bilingual pay incentive for the fire department. And all of this was in me when I fell down. But what if I wouldn't have gotten back up? And so your child, your friend, your relative that makes a mistake, don't throw them away, because all of us have a gift. We just have to find it. And so that's what this is all about. I want to encourage you. I want to talk to you about some things that could happen after having a misstep. I went on to write this book, Kevin Matthews, Empowering the Powerless, the 5 Steps to a New Way of Thinking. And the new way of thinking has to do with how we bring our people out of poverty, because it's a mindset. It's a mindset. I'm here on historic Greenwood, where 100 years ago, 104 years ago, we had 2 people with hotels. We had people with airplanes right here on Greenwood, and now I don't know any black person that owns an airplane in my friend circle or a hotel. But why was that the case? It was because of cooperative economics. And so that mindset is what will help us to be second chance superstars. We are everything that we need. When I wrote this book about the key things that you need, even when you made a mistake, whether you're a felon, whether you've made any other kind of mistake, whether you've been divorced, whether you've gone bankrupt, you can get back up. And what are the basics of that? Number 1 is education. Now, what does education mean? Does that mean you have to go to college and get a degree? That's great if you do. But if you don't, there's many forms of education. There's tech schools. There's what I've learned right here on Greenwood, just going with someone that can teach you how to be a mechanic, that can teach you. My grandmother used to take me fishing, teach me urban agriculture, working in a garden, etc. I know people that learn to cook and have catering businesses, but you have to continue to learn and educate yourself constantly. My 2 sons that I tell you about, when they were in school, When I was a single parent, as their mother went on to marry another nice gentleman, in our home, our motto was readers are leaders. If you know my two sons, they'll laugh when you tell them that because that's what they used to have to, I used to have them say every day before they went to school. And so, ironically, all three of us are authors of books today. And so, education, that's one thing. And if we're talking about second chance superstars, when you're talking to your son or daughter that's made a mistake, after education, what else do they need to know? What do we need to know? I like to bring back those philosophies of the once Greenwood, cooperative economics. And what do you need to pass being average? A lot of people say get a good job. Well, at the time of this shooting, with the new administration, there's a lot of people that don't have jobs that used to, especially when they're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and other government jobs that many people that look like me had don't have them anymore. But even with the job, dual income is important. Dual income. What do I mean by that? I teach young people something that's simple. When I was growing up at 8 to 9 years old, I had a paper route before I went to school. And then by the time I was a teenager, I had 2 paper routes. So I had 2 incomes by then. And the Oklahoma Eagle newspaper just down the street, I used to sell those on Thursdays. So that was 3 incomes as a teenager so I could make sure that I helped my mother buy my school clothes so she didn't have to do that as a single parent. So have more than one source of income. That's really important. And that's whether you have 2 people working in a house with 2 incomes or one person that has 2 jobs or a business. Something as simple as vending machines that you just have to fill up once a week. That's passive income. And we'll get to that in a moment. That's the next thing. How do you build wealth? And what is wealth? When you're talking about having a second chance, when you learn these tools, your life will change. And so one of the things that we talk about is passive income. Active income is going to work and selling your time for money. Passive income is having a way to make money when you're asleep and you don't have to be there. What are the most simple ways of passive income? I just told you, vending machines is one, where you could just have a pop machine or a candy machine and fill it up once a week and come back. You can be making $200, $300, $400 a week with that. But one of the biggest ones that there's not one billionaire, I don't believe, on this earth that does not have real estate in their portfolio. So rental properties. And that's what I did when I actually retired, was able to purchase homes and finance them to people that couldn't go to banks. Real estate, having rental property. I just had an opportunity to go to Africa on my birthday, March 2nd this year, spend 9 days there. I was in South America before that. And while gone, everybody paid their rent. What happens is passive income is like a financial stream, a stream of water down a lake. If you take a bucket and put it into that lake and pull it out, just like going into your bank account and pulling out money. The difference is when you go into your bank account and pull out money, that money is no longer there. But with passive income, it's just like getting water out of a stream. When you take that bucket out of that stream, is there a hole in that water? No, it automatically fills back up. That's what passive income does. And so if you have rental properties, you go on a vacation, you spend $2,000, $3,000, and you got 3 or 4 properties that pay $800, there's $3,200 will be back in your bank account when you get back. Isn't that cool? So when we talk about second chances, it doesn't always have to be with a job. And then there's a 4 core principles that I think that we should implement in our culture and in our homes every day. And I taught my children these principles. when they were young, I would give them, before they were 5 or 6 years old, I would give them $3 to $5 to do certain core chores. I had an uncle that told me to teach them about money at a young age. And so I would tell them, okay, you take out the trash, you're supposed to help with the kitchen, you're supposed to do this. And they had tasks. And when they did it, then they got an allowance so that they would understand how to handle money at a young age. Before they were 5 years old, it was about $3 before they were 5 years old. $1 was give. We went to church, give, save, invest before you spend the rest, and the power of passive income. They learned that at an early age, and I teach that to all young youth. As early as they can talk, they can understand it, and you tell them to repeat this: give, save, invest before you spend the rest, and the power of passive income. Every child can say that. Give, save, invest before you spend the rest, and the power of passive income. And it becomes a habit. I used to give them these little envelopes to put their money in the credit union. They would have $1 they would take to church. They put the little $1 in an envelope and put it on the counter. And later, when they got older, they got to be $5. And then they started working in my company. By the time they got to middle school, they were making $20. And they were making a certain amount per hour working in my company, and they would do the same thing. And by the time my oldest was a teenager, I think 13 or 14 years old, he had saved $1,000. His brother had saved about $600. They went in together, and we went to the auction and bought a car and financed it to their 18-year-old cousin for $50 a week. That $1,600 turned into $2,400, and they got an award from the credit union as young people saving money. Second chance superstars. We're going to be talking to people that have raised their children like this, that have become successful after a fall. But if you continue to listen, you might get a nugget that you can tell somebody else, or you can use yourself. And I'll be able to tell you how I went from there to here, where ultimately we were able to buy buildings, buildings and condos, downtown Tulsa condo, building the old Urban League, but just using these principles. Both of my sons were buying cars by the time they were teenagers, and both of them had homes by the time they graduated high school. My youngest got mad at me and didn't want his, but he's still a superstar today, and they learned these principles. And I went from Section 8 to now having one or two Section 8 homes, but most of my homes I bought, one or two lately, but all the homes, my first 10 homes, were financed to people here in Tulsa, just $500 down and $500 a month. If you couldn't go to a bank, you wanted to live near your relative, I would finance that. And I financed multiple businesses on Greenwood. I'm going to be talking to the chamber about being a consultant this week, but these are some of the things that I learned after I had my second chance. Now, giving, that's the number one in the foundation. Volunteering and helping other people. It's all about, see, the power is in the giving. A lot of times we don't realize that the power is in the giving. It's not what we get. In this book, I'll teach you how to be a go-giver, not a go-getter. Be a go-giver. See, one of the people that I read about a lot said, this phrase, that if you help enough other people have what they want in life, you'll have everything you want in life. And I found that to be true. It's about giving. Your legacy, my legacy, I want to be how many people I helped. And I feel like you get blessed for that. And so volunteering and helping in organizations and helping in causes you believe in, I think that's very important. And then a big key is networking. Networking, building relationships outside of your small circle of people you grew up with, you went to school with. Continue to meet and get to know other people and grow your network. And then finally, reach while you climb. When you go forward, you're supposed to leave the door open and leave the ladder down. Leave the door open and leave the ladder down. One of my mentors said that. Kinsey, that's an art collector. That was one of his statements, is leave the door open when you get there and leave the ladder down. So reach while you climb. It's all about the future. And if we want to have a legacy, we always need to be working with young people and teaching young people as we move forward. And so each of these chapters in this book talk about giving, volunteering, networking, mentoring, and then finally, saving. Save a percentage of every dollar that you get. Give, save, invest before you spend the rest in the power of passive income, and then create long-term security. And so that's what this book is about. But I'll be talking about this on this show and a couple of other shows that I'll be doing. And so I want you to listen in and get another young person to listen. And if you want to be a guest on my show, text me at 918-521-3598. Email me at info@kevinmatthewsconsulting.com or kevin.l.matthews@hotmail.com. I hate to say that Hotmail thing because that's what makes people know how old I am. Nobody has a Hotmail but me. But hey, you know what? It's working. And so that's what this show is going to be about, is giving you tips from second chance people. It's so amazing how smart and intelligent people from our community are. And even though they made a mistake, given the opportunity, we're some of the most amazing people on earth. And so we're going to be talking about those types of things on this show, Second Chance Superstars. And I think what makes you, let's talk about what I believe wealth is. Wealth itself is passive income that exceeds your expenses. And I don't care if you, let's say you have 10 pop machines and they bring in $200 each a month. That's $2,000 a month. But if you live in a small apartment, utilities paid, and your bills are only $1,200 to $1,500 a month, and you don't have to go to work, and your expenses, are being paid, and they are more than your expenses, then you're wealthy. And wealth is not about dollars, it's about time. See, we think that, I got all this money. There's people that I know people that make $20,000, $30,000 a month, but they go to work before the sun comes up and don't come home till after the sun comes down. They have this beautiful home that they can't even live in. And so they have it, but the stuff owns them. They don't own it because they don't have the time. Time is the most valuable thing we have in life. Time is the most valuable thing we have in life. And anything that allows you to have more time to do what you love is what's making you wealthy. When you're able to spend, I was grateful that when I was on the fire department, before I became a chief, I only worked 2.5 days a week, 24-hour shifts every third day. And I was at home with my children. I was teaching them to read. They may not remember, I was running them up and down hills and getting them tired so I could read in the afternoon. But I spent time with them, and that made me feel wealthy. And I believe that is wealth. We're able to travel, snow ski, water ski, go to travel, and do those kinds of things. That's what wealth is to me, is being able to do the things you want to do with your time. And that's what passive income allows you to do. But it's sad that none of that I was doing before I got my second chance. The first time, and what happened to me, and this is a cautionary tale, is I grew up poor in North Tulsa, right on Seminole Street, the street right behind Oasis grocery store we have, in a house right between two Section 8 apartment buildings, in a house right there in the Section 8 neighborhood. And while growing up, there was a lot of things that we didn't have. My mother was a single parent. She used to, she was a nurse. She ended up being a nurse, and she would leave a pot pie and say, hey, this is what you're going to have for dinner. Kevin, put it in the oven at this certain time, and this is what you guys are going to eat. Bologna sandwiches a lot, and these pot pies. I got so sick of bologna sandwiches when I joined the fire department at lunchtime. I said, I'm eating no more bologna for the rest of my life. I never had another bologna sandwich. I've eaten some barbecue bologna. That's an Oklahoma thing for you guys that are out there that have never heard of it. But I just remember at a young age thinking when I get to be an adult, I wanted to have a refrigerator with food in it. If you go to my house and open my refrigerator, food will fall out. Never wanted to be hungry again. And I always felt like when I get to be an adult, I'm going to have more. I'm going to have more. So I grew up and, by the time I was 30, I had 10 houses. Bought my mom's house. I went on when I joined the fire department, I started learning about real estate and those kinds of things. I had Kevin's Cleaners here on Greenwood, 118 North Greenwood. I had Kevin's Cleaners when I was in my 20s because I had a firefighter that had a dry cleaners and taught me the dry cleaning business. Then they taught me the real estate business. So I bought my mom's house, built the house one block off of Greenwood that we still have today, and bought another house. And so here I am, 28 years old, with 3 houses and a business. And there's a saying, I'm not going to say the derogatory term, but they call it hood rich. I was hood rich. I was the man. So I started smoking weed, drinking alcohol, doing cocaine, and started to ruin my life because I got too much too fast and did not know how to handle it. The cautionary tale is sometimes we ask for things we're not ready for. I got the money, but I didn't have the maturity and the discipline that went with it. And it ruined my life at that time. And now I've learned and I teach that that's what's important. That's why you want to start teaching your children at a young age how to handle money and how to handle things. And don't give them things but an opportunity and education. One time, my oldest son, Kevin Matthews II, I used to, like I said, I'm an avid reader. And there was a guy that had a television show down on Brookside. And he used to come on Sunday mornings and he used to do these book reviews. And I used to look at it every Sunday. So when Kevin, my oldest, was about 3 or 4, my youngest was probably about 1 or 2, but he was learning to read. And I took him, this place was called Lewis Myers Bookstore on Brookside here in Tulsa. And so I took him, and Lewis Meyer himself was there. And I said to him, I introduced him to my son. He said he had a couple of daughters, and I got to talking to him and said, I know you're really proud of them, and you're going to leave them. They're going to be excited to get this business. And he just looked at me with a frown, and I said, I'm trying to learn how to raise my son, and so what's the best advice you give me so that I could leave him stuff like you can leave your daughters? And he said, look, sir, and I put this on my wall. He said, you give them the best education you can afford. Teach them everything you can teach them. And you won't have to leave them nothing. They'll have more than you. Teach, educate. Don't give. See, when you just give, they just learn how to receive. Their muscles of getting things for themselves don't grow. There's a lot of people. We have people that, sadly enough, live in impoverished situations, but want to buy expensive things for their children, but don't even have a vehicle. It's not love to give a child everything without the education that goes with it. That's my philosophy. I'm not telling you how to raise your children. I'm just saying that is what happened to me. I did not know how to handle that money that I got first time. And so it ruined my life. Now I've learned that discipline and consistency leads to success. And so that's a cautionary tale. Sometimes we want things we're not ready for. And if you can't handle 100, why should somebody give you 1,000,000? I know many people, when I say many, at least a half a dozen, that have gotten $1,000,000 and it didn't last 1 year. Some of them have died from overdoses. Some of them have just blown it because they didn't understand the principles of working for it and moving forward. So that's some of the things we're going to be talking about, is what led to failure for people, and then what they did to be second chance superstars. And when I say superstar, I think you're a superstar by just overcoming adversity. It doesn't matter how much money you make, but if you're a drug addict and you stop using drugs and you start taking care of your family, that's a superstar to me, especially a Black male that takes care of his family and his children. I think that's one of our top responsibilities. And that's something I have a prejudgment about, men that don't take care of their families. I think that's so important. And when men are trying, or women are trying after making a mistake, if they get an opportunity, I think we should be about being able to give them opportunities. That's why I'm big on entrepreneurship and businesses. I'm working with the Blacktown Initiatives right now, the Oklahoma Civil Rights Trail. I've got land in Boley, Oklahoma. I've got land in Tallahassee, Oklahoma, where we're putting housing and creating jobs and opportunities. And instead of looking down at our brothers and sisters, we need to be picking them back up. And so that's what I want to encourage you to do. And what I'm doing here is I'm creating a platform for that. I'm creating almost a ministry or a movement of us picking up our own people instead of putting them down. I'm tired of these keyboard bullies that always point out people's problems and think that's a big deal. That's not, we have people that tout Black Wall Street and all of this, but they're putting down their people. You'll never see me argue with my own people in public. I've been a public official for 37 years, 25 years on the fire department, 12 years in the legislature, and I've been upset with many people, but I don't fight my own people in public. I think that's a dirty shame. I just think it's terrible. I've wanted to, but I believe that that's counterproductive. We're here in a city where there's only 12 to 13% Black folks, and the pool is too small for us to be fighting each other. And if you know some of those keyboard bullies, tell them to tap into this or send them this clip, because I just think we should not be fighting each other. We're not our own enemy. We're not our own enemy. So I want you to encourage others to listen to this. And then I want you to think about being on the show or sending me information about what you want to hear on the show. I just told you my email earlier. You can hit me on Facebook. I have 3 Facebooks: Senator Kevin Matthews, SEN Kevin Matthews, Kevin Matthews, Kevin L. Matthews. And then, I had a radio show, a past radio show, Conversations with Kevin Matthews, intellectual stimulation through thoughtful conversations. If you're on any of those platforms, send that out and let people know we're going to be doing some unique things. I want you to join my Second Chance Circle so that we can concentrate on success in our community. We need to this is the thing, we cannot raise young people to be successful and not fight at one another if we can't be an example. We have to be an example for what we want. And that's back to cooperative economics. And so some of the people that we'll be having on the show, Damon Owsley, an amazing person that come home from a situation that I'll let him tell you about. That's a major builder here in Tulsa. I think he's probably, in the last 4 or 5 years, probably built around 30 brand new homes in Tulsa. Monty Lewis, John Stark's brother, who can tell you his story. And these are people that can make up to $100,000 in a week. Carl Walker, who's had over 100 houses in Tulsa. And then I'm going to have some other success stories of people that haven't all failed, but they did it right the first time. I just talked just yesterday to Regina Tisdale, the widow of Wayman Tisdale. I have other friends that we will bring to you, and I think it will be very valuable. And so help us to make this happen. When you subscribe, it's only like $5 to $10 a month at a start to help us to continue to make this happen. And so I want to thank you for listening to me today. And I want to tell you a little bit about who should be watching this show. Loved ones of incarcerated or addicted individuals, or those individuals themselves, recovering addicts, or returning citizens, individuals that are coming home from incarceration. I have a nonprofit that created North Tulsa Community Construction School for former incarcerated, justice-involved, and non-college bound individuals to learn the construction trade. They built a house helped to build a house right next to the school. We had 21 graduates of that program. We're real proud of that. And so people that need those kinds of opportunities or need inspiration, have them to listen or contact me. Anybody that's been through a divorce or just feeling lost or just feeling like you made a mistake that you can't come back from, this show is for you. Then faith-based and healing communities, churches that are trying to build, that want to kind of learn about what's going on today and opportunities to grow their ministries. And then mental health organizations that want to know what type of problems have happened in the city where people might need their services. I know that while I said I'm a person of faith, I believe therapy is important. And contact me if you're a therapist or know some, for not only myself, but for others that we can refer to you. And then support groups, AA, CA, NA, Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Alcoholic Anonymous, individuals in those programs. This show is for you. This show is to let people know that you're not alone if you've gone through some of these situations that I've been through and some of the people that are going to be on my show have been through. And so this is who I am, Kevin Matthews. And this is the show for Second Chance Superstars. And so I want you to tune in the second Friday of each month and learn about what superstars are doing and help us to support people recovering from addiction, people coming home from prison. This will be about restorative justice. This will be about motivation. And this is not just a show, it's a movement. Thank you. Thank you for watching this episode. To see episodes early, subscribe to my Patreon with the link below. You also get bonus content. You get to decide who I talk to or what I talk about. And after every episode, I get on there and talk about what we learned from each episode. So join our Patreon today, and I want you to be part of my Second Chance Redemption Circle, a movement of second chances, power, and purpose.